Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Shion Stitches here. So today we're going to be making this trending Ankara pant trouser. So if you sound like what you're interested in, let's go. What I have is just about 2 yards and 10 inches of Ankara print, and I don't want it to be very wide. I did one for a customer. It's actually turned out nice, but for myself, I don't want it very wide. So what I did here, I have 16 inches on fold, and that's because I folded using 10.5 inches. That is my hip measurement after I divide by 4. 10.5. So my 10.5, I just decided I was going to add about 2.5 inches to it to give me um 14 or 13. Then I'm going to use 2.5 or 2.7 as my crotch. So I'm going to start with a starting line here. So I have my starting line here. I'm going to create another half of an hinge. This is just going to serve as the allowance at the upper part. So I'm going to, that's because I don't want to use this savage. I don't want to use the black part of the savage. Okay, so from this starting line here, I'm going to mark, come down to my hip measurement. My hip measurement is 10.5. After which I'm going to use my crotch. I'm going to mark my crotch measurement. So for my crotch, my hip measurement is 42. I'm going to divide that by 4. That is 10 inches. Then I will add 2.5 inches to it. That is 12.5. And I have my 12.5 here. Remember, our starting line is here. So I'm going to mark my 12.5 here. But because it's actually a baggy pants, I can just make it 13 inches. But let's still go ahead and mark our 13 inches. So let's mark the 13 inches there. So I'm going to make this into a clear straight line. So the crotch goes first and the hip goes next, this way. So on the hip line, I'm going to mark my hip measurement, which is 10.5 after I've divided by 4. I'm going to mark that here. I'm going to add my allowance of 2.5. I don't want it more than that. So I'm going to take that same measurement on the crotch line, that is 10.5, and the ease of 2.5. I'm also going to put that on the starting line here, 10.5, then 2.5. Then I'm going to make this into a straight line. My crotch, I'm just going to add 2.7 as my crotch. So that is everything that I have here. So I'm just going to create the crotch curve just like this. Now I'm going to go in by half of an inch on the starting line, this way. Go in by half of an inch and just blend it in towards here. You can actually skip this. So now this is what we have. Now the length of my trouser is 44. Remember, we have 2 inches band. So I'm just going to mark my 44 down here. So I have my 44 inches here. So I'm going to mark that. Always remember, do not forget to, do not forget your band measurement. Now this 44 is because I actually want it flowy. If you don't want it flowy, just take your measurement, maybe your ankle length measurement, and just whatever you get is what you have. So I'm going to mark this into a straight line. Here is what I have here. Here's the length of my trouser. So I'm making that into a straight line. I used about 2.5 inches or 2.7 for my crotch measurement. So I'm just going to mark that here. So let me just mark. let's say 2 inches. 2 inches is fine, or 2.5 inches. I'm going to mark 2.5 inches here, and I'm going to connect that to the crotch area. This is just a way of still trying to like reduce the bogusness. Okay, I'm doing 2 inches. I don't want the trouser, I don't want it to be too big. The big ones are actually the jumbo sized trousers. I admire it on people, but I don't want that for mine. So I'm just going to connect from the crotch. I'll blend it in this way, and I'll just go ahead and cut. So now that I have my front piece, I'm going to use that to cut the back piece. I'm going to fold my back piece into two again. Then I'll place the front piece on it. But this time, the upper part of this back piece is going to be 1 inch longer than my front piece. I'm going to make sure this is 1 inch higher or longer than the front piece this way. So this is my 1 inch here. I have my 1 inch here. Then on the crotch line, I'm going to extend the crotch line. I'm going to go ahead and extend the crotch line on the back piece this way. Then I want to extend it with 2 inches, and I have that here. I have my 2 inches there, and that is what I'm going to use all through. I'm going to add 2 inches on the back piece, which means the back piece is 2 inches bigger than the front piece, up to the hem part of the pant. And also here, I'm going to go in by 2 inches. At this point, you can actually do 1 inch if you want, but I'm going to be doing 2 inches, 1.5 inches, but I'm going to be doing 2 inches all through this way. Just going to connect your back crotch this way. Connect the back crotch. Then this extension we have here, the 1 inch is a 1 inch extension. What we'll do with that is you're going to take it back here and align it to this point. Just going to connect it this way. Then we make all of our dots match. Connect all dots, the 2 inches allowance we have. Now we're going to go ahead and cut that out as well. That is that. So we're going to also trim out the sides. We're going to cut it open. First thing first, now we're going to go ahead and bring out our two front pieces, which is this, because we're going to be using this to cut the pocket. Obviously, this is not going to be, I won't be able to get my band, my drawstring, and my pocket here. So I'm just going to find another pieces that I can use as my pocket. I'm going to cut out pocket from this. For the pocket, I'm going to be cutting it together with a different fabric, obviously. So I folded my fabric this way. Then I folded again. So what I need is just 8 inches by 12. I have that here. So for my 12 inches, I have that this way. So I'm going to cut that out. So I have two pieces for my pocket, which I'm going to open up this way. So I have right sides facing each other. So I'm going to take my one side of my front piece. Now this is the crotch area. This is where the pocket is going to go into. So I'm going to take on this piece, I'm going to mark 3 inches in for my pocket. I want it to be 3 inches in this way. I'm going to do 3 inches in, and I'm going to do 7.5 inches in. Remember, we are going to take away half inch for band, so it will be left with 7 inches. So I'm going to connect this 3 to this 7 inches measurement here, this way, and that is where we are going to be cutting away for our pocket. So I'm going to place this to match with the pocket piece I have cut this way. Then I'm going to cut it together. Remember, two pocket pieces, right sides facing each other, they are not unfold. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it this way, and here is what we have. So we have our pocket pieces. I can set this aside for now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and sew half of an inch. I'm going to sew on half of an inch on the front crotch, and I'm also going to do that on the back crotch. So I've joined the front crotch. Next thing I want to do is to fix the pocket. Now here is the sides we cut for the pocket. This side here. Now you're going to take one piece of the pocket, right sides facing each other this way, match it up, and if possible pin it down. Go ahead and pin it down. Also do the same for the other pocket side. Match it up this way, match it up, and pin it down. Now here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take it to the sewing machine, sew down with half of an inch, then I'm going to top stitch on it. Then I'll do the same thing here, then I'll show you what's next. After joining the pockets, here is what I have. It's not making sense yet here. So here's what you would do. Just, I don't know how I can explain this, but it is actually self-explanatory if you pay attention to the video. This is our front piece. It's the right side is facing me now. This is the pocket side. I've top stitched. What you're going to do next is you're going to pull in your pocket this way. This way. This is how you're going to get what you're doing. Make sure there's a way you fold it and it will just match up this way. Just make sure the sides are matching. Then use that to arrange these sides. You get, here is it. Here it is rather. So just go ahead, do this, just pin it down this way. You're going to pin it down this way. Also pin it down this way. Then you come to this other side, do the same thing. Pull your main fabric, pull it over the pocket in this way, just as you see me do. Make sure they're properly aligned. Match it up, make sure they're matched together, like they're properly aligned this way. You just have to pay attention to this side, just this way. You're going to make sure it's properly aligned at this area. So you're going to also pin this down. You're going to pin this down this way, and also pin this side down. Now I'm going to use the sewing machine. I'm going to stitch it down here, also stitch it down here. Now you're going to flip it open, then we are going to close this pocket side this way. You're going to close this pocket side, and if you don't want the weaving to show on the outside, you're going to have to remove the pin, just flip it open, just turn it inside out and stitch on it. Like, it's very, very simple. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm done with the front piece. Here's the pocket area. So we're done with our pockets. The next thing we want to do is we're going to place the back piece on the front piece this way. Obviously the back piece is bigger than the front piece, yeah, we all know. So what you're going to do is you're going to match up the sides. You can go ahead and pin. Take this other side, you join using 1 inch sewing allowance, you pin it also 1 inch allowance, after which I'm going to match up the crotch area, sew down this way, sew down the other way, then I'm going to hem the, I'm going to fold the hem of the trouser. So they will come back to work on the band. I'm done joining all the pieces together. So the next thing is you're going to take your tape measure and measure around your waist. Whatever you have there, you're going to use it in cutting your band. In my case, what I have is 49 inches, and I've cut out this band. This band is on fold and it is 2.5 inches. I'm going to attach it with 1/2 inch round this way, so that I can still have my 2 inches band intact. Now for the elastic, remember what we have is 2 inches left for the band. Yes, so I don't have 2 inches elastic, I have the 1 inch elastic. So what I'm going to do is this. So here's what I'm going to do. Now my waist measurement is 32, so I'm just going to remove about 4.
So you're going to remove 4 inches from the exact waist measurement, and that is going to be 28 inches. I'm going to cut that into 2 places. So you're going to cut the first one, then use the first one to cut the second one. And because we want to achieve a 2 inches band, what we're going to do is we're going to place these 2 elastic that we've cut out, place it side by side, then we're going to stitch it down, and we're going to have an almost 2 inches band. So the next thing is to place it as you can see in this video, and that is what we're going to use in passing the band. We're just going to pass this through the trouser.
After fixing the elastic, here is what I have. Here's what I have. So the last thing is to pass our rope, and for this rope I cut out about 80 inches in length of 1.5 white Ankara fabric. So 1.5, then I folded it in 2 pieces and I rolled it over. For our rope, you're just going to bust it open, with your seam ripper, whatever you can lay your hands on. Just bust it open. Then also on the other side, bust it open on the other side. This is just for us to have a passing for our rope. We're going to pass it from this first opening here. From the first opening here, you're just going to, it might be kind of tough because we are passing it through on an elastic, but you're just going to continue to pass it till you bust out from the other side, and we have our Ankara baggy pants.
And here is the outcome of what we just made. So guys, if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, please hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you again in another video.